Renee is backstage, and this is after Forbidden Door on Sunday, where she interviews a bloodied Will Ospreay with Alex Windsor. And then Jon Moxley walks out of the locker room. And we had a double date right at the beginning.
You know what? I'm sure they would have had a great time.
We both married, bruv.
Yeah.
And Moxley has a moment alone with thousands of people watching here on as they just kept shooting this. And Ospreay asks him, when you said you were starting to see it in me, what were you talking about? And Moxley says, if you want to be the real thing, you need to live it. And he says how AEW could be something great. And in an industry that's full of carnies and liars, it's up to us to protect this place and preserve this craft. And he pulls out his Death Riders Scout badge. He's like, you've earned the Death Rider badge.
Scout badge.
Yeah. I'd put this on my sash. This is like my, you've created you've created a monster now in Will Ospreay. So he presents him with his patch, and Ospreay takes the patch and he walks right into Kenny Omega, who just happens to be in the neighborhood. And he says how he's proud of Will, and Will knows that Kenny can't take his eyes off the patch. The patch way. And look at this look.
I love the patch. Are you kidding? Well, what should it have been instead of what? Like a belt? The blue belt?
You know, he should have had to get one of those like branding irons.
I think it should be a white T-shirt. Wouldn't that be a thematic?
That would be, size extra small. Yeah. Yes. So Will's like, I don't need you to be my dad. I know you're looking at this patch. And he says, I'm just looking out for you. And Ospreay says, just because you've given up on yourself, Kenny, doesn't mean I've given up on myself. And then MJF walks out of another room and he says, Kenny warns him that if you get by Mark Briscoe, I'm coming to knock on your door. I don't think he meant literally because the door was open behind him. But there was a grand question here of Will Ospreay just went through this hellacious tournament to get this title match, and Kenny's just going to ask for a title shot and get one.
But it's not just about the title shot, right? It's the setting, especially for Will.
Well, apparently Kenny doesn't care. He's going to do it on a beach next week. So Omega then says he loves Will. You'll always be my friend.
Yeah. I thought the scene played out really well, and it's a very easy to read type of scene that maps out the course towards Wembley, certainly, but also the entire path where they may get there. But it still offers, I think, a great deal of mystery. In particular, what exactly the relationship is between Will Ospreay and Jon Moxley. I mean, I think everybody is expecting a turn at some point, but some I saw like speculate that like Sunday would have been the end of the Death Riders Will Ospreay relationship, but that's
I don't think
not
it can.
the case.
Can't be.
No, well, it's got to culminate in a turn. It's got to culminate in a match, right? But
I'm thinking that this match. You tell me if I'm overemphasizing it. I think if they end up doing this big, their answer to WrestleMania next year, like I think this could be their main event. Is this
for
match.
All In next year? Oh,
not for All In, for that March, April, whatever
Sure.
it is kind of show. Like for that timing wise, like I think this could be that big for them potentially.
Yeah, absolutely, it could. Yeah, they're certainly putting, laying the foundation for it really, really strong, and they're kind of like, I would say, playing with some people's expectations. They're trying to lure. Like it really does feel like a cult, and Jon Moxley is like almost like an ultimate cult leader in speaking in ways that sound so like, I don't know, charismatic, but also incredibly cult leader like. And Will Ospreay is somebody who just strictly wanted to maybe get better at, his ground game, who has now been completely lured in through the Kool-Aid of Jon Moxley. And I thought this was like a great, sort of midpoint to tell you exactly how much he's been influenced by the Death Riders. I also thought it was a scene that, like, again, didn't necessarily have to hold your hand through it. Immediately Kenny comes in and Ospreay is quick to say, you're not here to just congratulate me. You're here to warn me about joining these guys. So they're really telegraphing the Wembley main event, but I don't think that is bad at all. It simply means that they're giving all of us a focus, and now we let the story play out and hope the storytelling is strong.
They're almost telling you like what the main event is, but instead of like trying to surprise people or swerve people, the suspense is, how are they going to get here? How are they going to weave through this? Are they going to do the title change next week? Are they going to do the title change at Montreal? Is it going to be a hiccup for Will? It's like this, you're pretty clear this is going to be the end result, but what is the navigation to August 30th?
Yeah. And as long as there's a shred of doubt that this isn't the main event, I think you'll have your audience. And that shred of doubt in this case is MJF, and how what sort of obstacle he represents in all of this.
MJF has the Dynamite Diamond ring and strikes Mark, calling him a white trash hick. And he kicks out the medical staff. He's going for another ring shot when Kenny Omega interrupts. And Excalibur explains to us their history. They both were in Ring of Honor. The strongest link in professional wrestling are those ex-ROH alumni.
Only second to being in New Japan or being in Japan, period, at the very same time.
Who can forget all those classic Kenny Omega, Mark Briscoe moments in Ring of Honor together?
I mean, I'm sure they shared some great moments in the locker room. Yeah.
So Omega challenges Max for a title shot.
But by the way, did they explain where the conglomeration were?
I did not hear it, but knowing them, I'm sure they mentioned something.
Okay.
Because they usually don't let that stuff slip through. Because that would be glaring. Omega challenges him for the match tonight, but MJF turns him down, says it's laughable. You think you deserve a shot. I'm 2-0 against you, and I kicked out of the one-winged angel like it was nothing. You're not a god. You're a fraud. So MJF then decides, I will wrestle you next week at Beach Break if you agree that if you lose, you never get to challenge for the AEW title again. And Kenny has to answer by the end of the night.
Yeah. So this is, you can argue this is like AEW's biggest stipulation, right? Like at this point, it's almost become through Cody, through Paige, it's almost like a signature Tony Khan stipulation.
It's a stipulation that legit drew on pay-per-view earlier this year. Yeah. And all I can say is they must have the ultimate main event for Montreal. Yeah. Because this could easily headline Montreal. And my only thinking is that
this could have headlined Forbidden Door.
It could have. Yeah. Absolutely. It was bigger than either of their respective matches. I mean, think about it. Like that cage match and all that, it set up like this opening match on Dynamite. Yeah. So, I mean, Tony said that he was adding this Montreal pay-per-view because they needed this show for some reason. And I think everyone assumed that this would be the reason for it. But they're doing this early, and I think everyone is not only do I think people are expecting Kenny Omega to win this next week, I think there's probably the expectation that Hangman Page is returning in this match to help Kenny.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and leading to Page and MJF. Okay, so what would be the Kenny match for Montreal?
I don't know. I don't know what it would be if like it certainly doesn't feel like any of those other title challengers for Max would have the same kind of juice. Like Kenny and Andrade would not, to me, be a main event for Montreal.
You could always do the rematch, with Kenny defending instead.
Yeah, that's probably your biggest option, and you would need.
Well, what also happens if they go to a time limit draw next week?
Oh, go the hour.
Which they've done. Like, I feel like several times, like give a big match away from TV and then just go to a draw so that you can.
I mean, they've been
to a pay-per-view.
That'd be an hour, right?
Yeah,
I mean, they've already they're promoting 4 matches for next week.
Oh,
so I mean, they would have to cut something. I don't see them.
Would it be an hour, or like haven't they done half-hour limits for world title matches? I don't know.
They did the half hour for Kenny and Danielson, but that wasn't a title match. I think this would have to be an hour at that point. Okay. So,
could it be some sort of non-finish that still leaves audiences satisfied? Through maybe just great action, but
with the stip, I don't think so. I think you have to do the title change next week.
Yeah, we'll see.
So that would be the show long story. Would be Kenny would have to think if he was going to accept this or not. Which would have been a hell of a climax. Be like, I'm good. Renee interviews MJF after the break and says payback is coming for Andrade. He then lists off every single person he has beaten, and this was quite the roll call, and states he is the best wrestler in the world, Omega's gutless, and he will not accept his terms. And Ospreay walks in, warning him that you'll break your neck sucking yourself off like that, and asks, why the stipulation? And MJF just says, I'll see your pale ass at Wembley. Renee goes into the Elite's locker room as Matt and Nick are talking with Kenny about the decision he has to make. And they mention Matt mentions that already 2 Elite comrades have fallen to this MJF stipulation. And Omega, he says, my first reign, I didn't like the man I became. I needed help. And if I do this, I need to do it alone. But then clarifies, I haven't made a decision yet. But if I did make that decision, I'd have to do this by myself.
Yeah.
It sounded like his decision was made up, but we got to juice this last quarter.
You got to save it for the end, right?
The final segment on the show is reserved for Kenny Omega, and he's about to walk out when Ospreay catches him, and he says, I want you to win the title more than anything. I want to face you at Wembley, but I'm not sure if you're sure about yourself. And Kenny reassures him that if this is the end, I'm going out guns blazing. And he gives Will a hug. And out comes Kenny, and he gives a heartfelt speech. He tried to conjure his I'm in Japan tone of voice.
Okay.
So it looks like we're going to the beach. Well, surf's up, Max. So he says that I've been doing this for 30 years, since I was 14. And I've always given everything I had. I've won belts, I've broken records, and I could hang my hat on a pretty great career. But there's a selfish part of me that knows there's more left in the tank and that I can do it one more time, standing on AEW's biggest stage and facing Ospreay at Wembley Stadium. And he says, if I lose, I become just like Cody. The forbidden word. And Adam Page.
I feel like Cody's been brought up before, right? Punk, maybe a different question, but Cody.
Cody's the safe word, I guess.
Yeah, good terms.
He says, is the cost too high? No. I am still the best bout machine, and to some, the god of pro wrestling. I accept your offer, Max, and I'm coming prepared this time, and I'm not sure you're not sure what I have in store for you this time. And I don't know. I certainly took that as, he's going to have backup this time. I could see this big Hangman return next week. Possible.
Oh, okay. Yes.
So he accepts the offer, and then MJF attacks him from behind, gets the ring, but is stopped and taken down by Kenny, and we have a giant pull apart, ending the show. And so you are getting MJF and Kenny Omega several weeks earlier than maybe most thought, but a really big match for Dynamite next week at Beach Break.
Yeah. So it is really interesting, maybe unexpected booking, similar to how Darby Allin beating MJF was certainly unexpected, in this case, especially because they've already teased so much for MJF prior to this, whether it be Andrade, whether it be Kevin Knight, that you would think they, would go through a lot of that before getting to this. But the possibility of a title change is 100%. To John, you think it's even likely that it'll happen next week. So
I think part of that thinking is I think they want to basically tell you, like, Wembley, you're getting Kenny and Ospreay. Even with this July pay-per-view, I think people will realize if Kenny wins his belt next week, instead of 4 weeks out from the show, it's like we're telling you 7 weeks in advance that this is the match. And yeah, I don't know what you do for Montreal. I could still see doing Kenny and Andrade at Arena Mexico. I know the feud is MJF and Andrade, but you could still do something big with Andrade, and he could do the Max match at another time as well.
It's July on the Post Wrestling Cafe, and that means our extensive G1 coverage begins starting July 11th. We're going to have reviews of every single G1 card right up to and including the finals in the middle of August. Plus, Rewind Away takes a look at 2 episodes of Heels. We're also going to be going back to 2005 for a review of WrestleMania 21, and it is the start of our double shot episodes covering this season of Dark Side of the Ring. Plus, we are going to dive into the 3rd season of WWE Unreal. All that and so much more can be yours by signing up to the Post Wrestling Cafe. It gets you XL editions of Rewind to Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown, Collision Course on a weekly basis, MCU later, and so much more.